everybody, and welcome to this special on Venus transiting in Virgo. So this year, Venus is in Virgo from the 24th of August at 7:47 p.m. until the 18th of September at 8:28 a.m. when it moves into Libra. So in astrology, Venus represents love, beauty, harmony and values. So when Venus is in Virgo, we may be more meticulous and more analytical and detailed in how we appreciate or show love, beauty and harmony and values, We may find ourselves paying closer attention to our relationships, our health routine, our inner values, our personal opinions and beliefs, and thinking things like, are we being who we really are? Do you show up in spaces as your authentic self, or do you try and live up to society or other people's expectations, and why do you do that? Being really practical about, your exercise, your sleep patterns and sort of like your personal hygiene right now. It really wants us to reevaluate, the things that we really need to be paying attention in our life, especially our financial sort of matters. So, it's a good energy to look at your finances and budget and organise your expenses and seek out new ways of increasing your earning potential or your saving potential, looking at the areas where you may overspend or looking at skills you could improve on so that you can boost your income. You can find yourself just being more discerning, using more judgment in what you buy. You may not overspend right now. You may focus more on quality over quantity right now. So on a worldly, materialistic, collective level, we can just all be think differently on what beauty and aesthetics are, and we can just value more on the collective level when Venus is in Virgo, typically 3 to 5 weeks at a time, depending on whether there's a retrograde, and if it's there for like 5 to 6 weeks, it's usually split. It usually goes back in the previous sign, so that will be cancelled and come into Virgo. But yeah, so anyway, collectively the way we seek productivity, functionality and practicality, especially in our fashion and design trends, can change. We may focus more on sustainability, or we may be bombarded with messages on how we need to be more sustainable and practice more eco-friendly sort of like attitudes and behaviours and be more minimalist in our aesthetics. Fashion designers and product designers and all sorts of designers may promote sustainable materials, and people may just sort of like be influenced by sort of like a niche designer or something like that. It's a niche idea. It may go explode, go viral, for a minute and then not. But yeah, also, on the collective level, we may see an increase in our interest in wellness and self-care routines, and the emphasis can be on practical and cost-effective methods over, extravagant, costly treatments, especially in beauty, And politically, it can bring attention to issues related to education, healthcare, social welfare. Governments and organisations can focus and should focus on bringing in new policies that promote accountability, efficiency and fairness. Individual political leaders or, people, CEOs and stuff like that may feel pushed, compelled to volunteer or contribute to community service projects that benefit the less privileged or marginalised groups in society. Psychologically, it can bring the focus on self-reflection and improvement as we encourage to analyse our relationships, values and desires with more of a critical eye and seek more practical, meaningful relationships and conversations, and it just brings the emphasis on, personal responsibility, self-discipline, and, we totally dislike it. I was listening to a podcast and an author was saying how when he was test reading for the chapter on personal responsibility, like 8% of readers stopped reading it because, of course, we in society, especially now it's getting more divisive, we want to blame everyone else, rather than trying to focus on how we can become better individuals and, be better in our family and community units, So it wants us to take personal responsibility for bringing more order and productivity into our personal and professional lives, paying more attention to what we can do as individuals, not negating and thinking, oh, it's up to the government or organisations or someone else to change this, thinking about the changes you can make. It pushes us to reassess our self-worth and value, especially how we may use material possessions or seek external validation, whether it be from popularity, likes and social media, people telling us how good we look, or portraying this kind of luxurious lifestyle to get self-esteem. It pushes us to question the true sources of our happiness and whether they are aligning with our true, authentic core values, looking at attitudes and behaviours and thoughts and whether they align. Venus in Virgo pushes us to prioritise being authentic and practical, especially when making choices, and brings fosters a sense of clarity and purpose. And if we tap into it, it can bring an increased focus on the importance of self-care and well-being. And I push this, I believe if we are cognitively able, we have to take the reins on looking after our psychological, spiritual, emotional, financial and physical areas of life, taking that responsibility, becoming more disciplined, slowly getting up after each failure and seeking out the tools that can help us nourish our mind, body and soul. So it really wants us to dig into our inner worlds and evaluate our relationships and values and thinking with our partnerships, whether they be business ones, friendships, intimate relationships, are really in line with our life direction and our true needs and wants. And this doesn't mean letting them go. It means having honest conversations, creating active listening, non-violently communicating to each other our needs, and it wants us to remain open to change. So on the spiritual, esoteric level, we can feel more drawn towards spiritual techniques and practices and content that talk about practical tools that we can bring into our life to improve ourselves, that focus on, the gritty stuff like doing shadow work. And, it wants us to find peace and harmony through acts of kindness to ourselves and paying attention to the finer details of life in general, but your own life. And it wants us just to pay attention to the small, subtle, spiritual, even logical messages that may come from the universal people you interact with or something you hear or see right now. Some of you just may feel like you want to volunteer at a charity or something like that, or just use mindfulness techniques to bring about a sense of inner peace and just to connect with your inner self, or to connect with something greater than yourself. So on the symbolic creative level, it wants us to express our creativity in more detailed manner now and find beauty in the more simple and smallest details, and it can inspire us to create pieces of art or journal our emotions out, or in a way that reflects order and cleanliness and functionality. Some of you may be drawn to creating intricate patterns or drawings, or organising your space in a way that brings about a sense of aesthetic pleasure, kind of thing, some organising your surroundings. You want it to be in environments that are in sync with your intentions or your mood right now. And it can just, help us appreciate the artistry in everyday tasks like cooking, cleaning, planning, and all of that, On a personal level, it wants us to seek ourselves or our relationships, and as I said, our health habits, our routines, and refining our communications style, because remember, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so looking at our communication and all the third house stuff, like how we communicate with neighbours, friends, siblings and stuff like that. And obviously the sixth house Virgo, focusing on how we can give service and looking at our day-to-day routines and our thoughts and our habits, because really what we do, what I've learned, I've seen and experienced, and I've tried every other way, what we do daily is what we become. So we have to be careful of what we choose to think in every moment, and we don't need to beat ourselves up that we ain't, or that you ain't perfect, or techniques ain't working and all of that. It's all about being gentle and finding your way to inner balance, so it just also pushes you to pay attention to the details of how you present yourself to the world, and make the changes in your self-presentation that reflect more of your inner values and goals. And it just really, bring more order and structure in your life, but still be, flexible with it, because remember, Virgo's mutable earth energy, and bringing creativity into it, because, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And esoterically, Virgo is ruled by the moon, so and the moon rules Cancer, so the changing and of our emotions, and the importance of looking after our emotions, our thoughts, and our daily routine to bring about the things we want to see manifesting in our life by balance, action, as well as thinking positive as well. So now I'm just going to sum up the overall positives, negatives, and best use of Venus in Virgo. So, as I said, on the bright side, it wants us to pay attention to our self-improvement and our relationships, but negatively, it can make us overly critical, nitpicky in our interactions with others. We can just be really judgmental with ourselves. The inner critic can really come out, and this can put a strain on your, peace of mind, sense of self, and your relationships. So it's essential to maintain a balance between being judgmental and discerning, and pushing yourself, and being overly critical and self-deflating and self-destructive right now, to avoid sort of like internal conflict and external ones too. The best use of this energy is to pay attention to the small details, give gratitude for what you have in life, spend some time with your loved ones, focus on self-care practices, and be more practical, and don't be scared to have those honest conversations, especially in intimate relationships. It wants us to pay attention to the small details that make relationships work, what make life work, and all of that. And some of you could start a gratitude journal, or continue your gratitude journal if you haven't been writing in it for a long time, or anything else that just makes you kind of feel more humble and more of service to yourself and others in healthy ways. So now I'm going to talk about the aspects that Venus makes when it enters Virgo this year. So first, Venus makes a square with Mars, so this brings conflicts between our love and our desire, action drives. So this can add to the internal struggles and conflicts that I talked about earlier. Some of you may feel frustrated with your romantic partner, or if you're single, with yourself, and because we can have different expectations and needs, this can also add to conflicts in relationships and within ourselves as well. And Venus is trying to Uranus, encourages us to be more flexible, embrace change, and take unconventional approaches to our relationships. Some of you may feel a sudden urge to try new activities with your partner, or a new routine with yourself, just wanting to add a spark of freshness to your life or to your bond with your partner, if that's what you choose to do with this energy. Venus's opposition to Neptune can add to the confusion, idealism, romanticism, as we can find ourselves struggling to see situations clearly, or wanting to be manipulated and wanting to ignore those red flags, for temporary gratification, but in the long run it can, or even in the short term, it can lead to disillusionment in love and feeling let down or misled. So, especially if you have been ignoring red flags in relationships due to rose-tinted glasses, or fearing, confronting your truth. Because a lot of the time we see the truth really, but a lot of the time we can get into the habit, when, especially when we're in toxic relationships, of trying to prove to people outside of relationships that I'm making the right choice, I'm going to show you all, it's going to work, that sort of thing, So this aspect pushes us to face reality and set healthy boundaries, And Venus's quinquets to Chiron adds to these feelings of self-doubt, and it inadequacy and the potential that old wounds can surface and emotionally make you unstable right now. It pushes us, whatever happens now, is pushing us to confront our past hurts and insecurities, especially looking at how they're impacting our current connections, because until when we deal with our past hurt, it follows us. That song, it's called it's by Crowded House. Everywhere you go, you always carry the weather with you, and when we're talking about, it's a metaphor for you always take you with you, and a lot of the time, trust me, I've tried, do not you waste the energy trying to figure out other people, but don't try to control them. The only thing you can ever control is how you respond to the world, so you should focus all your energy on that rather than trying to attribute blame, acknowledge the blame and all the rest of it. But a lot of the time we can get lost in the blame same cycle where we feel shame and guilt for ourselves and blame others or whatever, and we can cut ourselves off from the richness of life. And I'm all about promoting the richness of life for each and every one, so Venus's opposition to the ascendant also adds to the struggles and causes tension between our personal values and how we present ourselves to the world, and it adds to the struggle of us staying true to ourselves and trying to conform to other people's expectations as well. And it just reminds us to find a balance that allows you to honour your values and who you are as an individual, as well as meeting other people's needs in healthy ways, and remember, authenticity is key to building and fulfilling relationships. For a while we can submerge our true desires and pretend to be someone else, but in the long run it never works, and sometimes we can do this for 10-20 years, we can become quite good at it, but eventually, like a house made of cards, playing cards, when the wind comes, what happens? So also at the time of Venus entering Virgo, there's a grand Earth trine, which involves Venus in Virgo, Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus within a 14% orb. So a lot of Earth energy bringing us that stability and highlighting, putting the spotlight on love, transformation, and Uranus bringing that unexpected changes, especially in the areas of beauty and relationships. And this can be scary, but whatever happens now is just, really driving us. Whatever happens in life, I believe if we can train ourselves to look at it this way, and it took me a while, it's pushing us to be a better version of ourselves, change our perspectives, adjust how we are and what we accept in our lives ultimately. So Venus in Virgo in this grand Earth trine highlights the sense of practicality and attention to detail that's needed to live your best life. And again, as I said, it can bring the focus more on our surroundings and practical solutions, especially in matters of the heart. And Pluto in Capricorn allows us to transform how we think about love and beauty and how we approach our lives and relationships. Uranus in Taurus brings unpredictability, pushing us to embrace new ways of expressing affection and appreciation and receiving it as well. So overall, this grand Earth trine supports us to have self-reflection and to grow and think about the way we think about and engage with love and giving and receiving affection, and our being authentic in our inner values and how we appreciate aesthetics, and encourages us to ground ourselves in reality while being open to innovative ideas and changes, and ultimately enhancing your relationships by thinking about how you can become a better communicator, a better lover, a better person, and how you can bring more beauty into your date nights and stuff like that as well. Because Venus is still about love and stuff, but we may just express it more in a practical way. So it could be like doing things like cooking a partner breakfast, getting them the favourite food, I don't know, putting the trash out, anything else that just the small practical things can really turn us on right now. So embrace this energy to explore new aspects of yourself and your relationships, and open up to a deeper understanding of your values and what you really desire in terms of love and affection. So now I'm going to talk about the karmic meanings, the karmic lessons, and what type of past past life memories and meanings can surface when Venus is in Virgo. So yeah, when Venus is in Virgo, the karmic meanings and lessons may focus on themes of service, health and practicality. So for example, if you feel or if you find yourself repeatedly drawn to relationships where you are always the one giving and not receiving much in return, it could be a karmic lesson playing out, or at least a current life toxic habit playing out. And maybe, in terms of past lives, you could have been the one who needed help and support, and now you're learning to give back selfishly. Sometimes it is that, but even within those realms, it's about doing it in healthy ways. So for instance, you could be here to serve, but imagine if you're in a toxic relationship and you're here to be a healer or help someone, help people as a therapist, I don't know, or even as a nurse, or even if you're, as a working in a bar, bartender or bar person, people tell their problems to that. But because you keep on getting in toxic relationships, you can't hold down a job, you never get to the place where you need to go, but you're thinking, oh, I'm healing this person, I'm trying to heal this person, I'm living my purpose right now, because it's stopping you from doing what you need to do. So yeah, can you see the nuances that even though you may be here to give back selfishly, in what contents? It's never in the contents, your higher self, never in the contents where you could potentially end up dead or harmed, or so we have to get real on a lot of these concepts that we have, especially in the spiritual community. But yeah, memories or feelings associated with past lives or karmic debts where you neglected your own well-being for the sake of others, or situations where you were overly critical, judgmental of yourself or loved ones, other people, or society in general, so it's time to reflect on, past lives and current life patterns, whatever comes up, it's coming up for a reason right now, and how, your worldview, how you think, your inner values or lack of, impact your current situations. And yes, there's lots of social economic factors and other factors that affect our quality of life, but this energy wants us to look at how as individuals we can break free from our negative cycles and align more with more positive energies and thoughts and behaviours. So by embracing the karmic meanings and lessons, we can cultivate, grow, develop more healthier dynamics and increase our self-awareness. And remember that self-reflection are key during this time, and take this as an opportunity to delve deep into your past experiences, both in this lifetime and beyond, and kind of reveal the intricate kind of web of connections influencing your relationships and values. And allow the energy of Venus in Virgo to guide you towards a greater understanding of not only your karmic path, but your life patterns, and allow it to make you feel more empowered to make conscious, healthy choices that make way for your continuous growth on all levels, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, physically and financially. So now I'm going to talk about how Venus in Virgo affects our relationships. So when it comes to family relationships, we can find at this time that we are more attentive to each other's needs and details and practical matters. Like I said, taking the trash out, making sure the household's running smoothly, or the family unit, even if it's distant family, you don't even live in your household, whatever, just paying more attention to details and stuff like that. So if for some of you, for example, a relative may offer you, constructive criticism on an important project that you're working on, and this can help you improve its overall quality. But sometimes, as I said, because we're human, this feedback may not be given constructively, and it may trigger a nerve, and sometimes we have to pick sense out of nonsense. And what this means is, for me, because my path has come from, a lot of my wisdom has come from, listening to people I didn't necessarily like, and that, to question why, and then reveal more of my shadow traits and stuff. So I believe if we're more open to that, because sometimes the advice people give to you don't always come in a nice way, so you can just disregard it. So this is not I'm not saying to believe every criticism or everyone says to you, no, but to question it. And if you do find truth, you don't need to admit to them, but at least use it to improve your life. And that's what it's all about, hey? Improvement, and as well as, being as well in the moment, of course, but, as well, a lot of the time we have to improve ourselves to get ourselves, do a lot of work to get ourselves to go with the flow, which is not working. It's like chilling out a bit, but we have to work to get there because we've picked up loads and loads of baggage along the way in our lifetimes, So negatively, in terms of family relationships, because we can pay more attention to detail, we can overly analyse and nitpick everything, and this can cause tension within the family unit. So yeah, try and resolve conflict and give grace and understanding and forgiveness, of course, to set your boundaries. But of course, it's always better to compromise sometimes than to break completely. Not always, but most of the times. In terms of friendships, we can become more reliable and organised in them. For instance, your best friend might help you create a detailed plan for a group holiday or something else, and just ensure everything runs smoothly. On the flip side, perfectionism can lead to disagreements over minor details or schedules in friendships, testing the friendship's flexibility and understanding. Whatever happens, if you just have a little bit of patience and try and understand each other's perspectives, you can overcome, even if it means a little break in the friendship for a day or two or whatever, an hour or two, whatever, or blocking and unblocking, and all the foolishness we can get into when we're engaging in relationships and trying to figure out how we can become more healthy in them. So yeah, in terms of co-worker relationships, colleagues may work together more, in a meticulous, structured, productive way, and this can increase, efficiency and lead to successful outcomes. But on the negative end, the critical nature of Virgo can lead to conflicts because of difference in opinions on how something should be done, so just need to watch out for that. Allow for everyone's input to be inputted, and know that your way may not necessarily be the best way, In terms of romantic relationships, it wants us to focus on the practical aspects of the relationship, such as planning for the future and improving communication. Couples may find themselves discussing financial goals or even health routines more intensively. On the downside, this emphasis on perfection and details can lead to feelings of inadequacy or criticism if expectations are not met, and single individuals can find themselves more attracted to partners who kind of exhibit Virgo traits, who are more practical, analytical and detail orientated, and this can lead to more stable and grounded connections based on mutual respect and shared values. But negatively, there can be challenges in letting go of control or allowing for spontaneous things to happen in dating experiences, which can get in the way of, forming deeper connections. And as Venus transits through Virgo, people who are self-partnered may find themselves focusing on self-improvement and personal growth. It wants you to be more detail-orientated in setting your goals and organising your daily routines, and, how you pay attention to your overall well-being. It wants you to use it to understand oneself, yourself, on a deeper level, and bring more of a sense of fulfillment, or if you feel fulfilled, to enjoy it and to make sure each day you do something that helps that sense of inner peace to continue to grow. And it just reminds you, self-partnered people, to balance perfectionism with self-compassion. Now I'm just going to talk about how Venus in Virgo affects our career and personal and spiritual and educational developments on the positive and negative levels. So yeah, in terms of career development, positively, it can increase our work ethic and attention to detail, and our ability to organise our tasks and our workspace and our routines efficiently, and meet the requirements, any demands and changing schedule. it promotes a practical approach towards work, and this can lead to increased productivity, and some of you may get a reward or mechanism for your careful work right now. But negatively, because we can all be critical of ourselves, this can get in the way of teamwork and creativity in the workplace. In terms of personal development, we can, as I said, feel more inclined to establish routines and set higher standards for ourselves, and this can lead to positive changes in habits and behaviours, and that's what it's all about. So whether you use it to improve your relationships with, intimate or friendships or colleagues or not, this energy should be used to start or continue the work of you bringing more positive habits and thoughts into your life. But negatively, we can become overly critical of ourselves and others, and this can lead to unnecessary stress and put strain in our relationships. In terms of spiritual development, it wants us to take a practical, grounded approach to spirituality, and it promotes us gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves and our beliefs and values in the world and our relationships, and it wants us to incorporate spiritual practices into our daily routines with discipline and dedication. Even if you just got 30 seconds to meditate a day, do it and build it up slowly. Sometimes we're like, I can't find 15 minutes to meditate, I can't find half an hour to exercise. Start with the minute. There's a great podcast, Cleaning Out the Mental Mess, that I like to listen to. If you don't like that one, find the right ones for you. If you listen to some already, let's start implementing the techniques into your life, because a lot of the times we can become collectors of books and knowledge and not implement the knowledge, and then be like, my life is crap, but I know all this stuff. You may know all this stuff, but are you doing all this stuff? Because this is what changes theory into practical action, and sometimes what works in theory doesn't work in practice. But when we try to put the theory in practice and then we make tweaks, then we can tweak the theory, and then it creates a loop. So it wants us to be more disciplined and dedicated, but it doesn't want us to become too focused on rituals and details, and this can lead to us missing out on the emotional and intuitive aspects of spiritual development. And this is where I'm coming down on me currently as I record this, because sometimes, as I said, there's many ways to do one thing, and it's all about finding your way. You seek out, people on the path, whatever path you're on, and you respect them, yes, and you incorporate their techniques that work. But you also, as you grow, yes, we need rituals and we need routine, but we also need to be spontaneous and let the logic come out of the way and tap into the more intuitive and emotional psychological levels, and Venus in Virgo allows us to do this. In terms of educational development, it wants us to focus on learning methodologies and looking at our study habits, and we can find ourselves more attentive to details, and we can become more organised in our approach to academics and become more dedicated to mastering new skills or knowledge. But negatively, we can become overly critical of our academic performance or our ability to learn new things, whatever we may be learning. Some of you may not be, traditional education could be a course, or, you could be teaching yourself a new language or something like this. But, it's important to not compare yourself to others, as this can lead, and it does lead to unnecessary pressure and stress. So it just reminds you to maintain a balance between striving for excellence and, status and success, and acknowledging your progress to ensure sustainable growth in your educational development. So give yourself little gold stars, or little, you can do little, when we want to 1, 2, 3, 4, you put across, tally up your results, celebrate your success each day in small ways, so you don't feel kind of like, oh, why am I doing this for? A lot of the times we give up because we delay the gratification, and as someone who has done that for most of their life, in some ways, not always, we can do that a bit too much. But sometimes we need that to be able to be open to instant gratification, because like all things, everything is a paradox in this land. But anyway, to sum up, I'm just going to talk about the best things for different people to do with this energy. So creators should use this time to pay attention to the details in your work and experiment with new techniques, and go for perfection, but without being too kind of nitpicky on it, and overly critical. Professionals can utilize this energy to organize their workspace and improve their communication and prioritize their tasks, in the order of they need to be completed. And entrepreneurs should use this energy to change their business strategies and focus on customer service and, reaching out to your clients and just implementing practical solutions to boost your day-to-day efficiency in healthy ways, and making sure that you're looking after your health and well-being routine as well, because entrepreneurs can forget to do that sometimes. So it's a good energy to review your financial matters and take practical decisions that benefit long-term growth. Alternative healers can use this period to fine-tune their healing techniques, focus on holistic approaches to wellness, and offer services that promote balance and harmony, as it, just supports, really paying attention to detail, and just encourages you to just be more on point, more refined, and just looking at how you can streamline your processes to be more efficient in them. Lovers should use this energy to, as I said earlier, practical gestures of love and support in relationships, just letting those you care about know that you're there in practical ways, and receiving that support and being open to the small gestures. A lot of the time we want the big gestures, we want the gifts and the displays of public affection, whatever, but sometimes it's the small things that keep the relationships going and healthy as well. So it's a good energy for lovers to communicate openly, so appreciation through acts of service to each other, and just planning thoughtful dates or surprises, and this can deepen our bonds. Self-partnered and singles should focus on their self-care routines and organise their living spaces and set realistic goals for personal growth. A lot of the time, as I said, we set unrealistic ones and this leads to us failing, so be realistic. Typically, if you think something's going to take a year, it'll probably take 3. That's a good measure, in terms of how much time you should add on for the completion of things, and it can even go beyond that. But yeah, being open to, Venus in Virgo is mutable energy. Being open to changing is really good. So yeah, just give yourself the time that you need. Focus on introspection, and maybe if you're open to dating, look at taking a practical approach to dating, focusing on compatibility and shared values, and just pay attention to those details and seek stability and authenticity in romantic connections and within yourself as well. So all in all, Venus in Virgo wants us to take a practical approach to all that we do. It encourages us to pay attention to the small details, make informed decisions, and seek out sustainable solutions to our problems, and not short-term solutions, long-term ones, and being realistic about how long it's going to take to follow through and complete, So yeah, I've been Amani. I'm your holistic astrologer. If you like my content, please subscribe or follow. And that's the end of this special on Venus transiting in Virgo.